"We'll establish a standard observation perimeter," he announced. "No direct contact until we better understand what we're dealing with. Lieutenant Ju, continue detailed scans of the planetary system. Officer De, assemble a specialized first contact analysis team. Top specialists only. I want comprehensive profiles on these beings: biology, sociology, technological capabilities, everything." As the crew moved to carry out his orders, Communications Officer Min raised her hand. "Captain, should we alert Coalition Command?" Ta paused before answering. Coalition protocols required immediate notification of any significant discovery, but something made him hesitate. The bureaucracy would likely take months to process this finding, during which time the Horizon Asterisk would be ordered to maintain distance and wait for a specialized diplomatic vessel. The opportunity to be the first to truly understand this anomaly would be lost. "Prepare a detailed report," he finally said. "We'll transmit it once we have enough data to make meaningful recommendations. For now, this discovery remains classified." The crew exchanged glances. Such a decision skirted the edges of protocol, but none challenged the captain's authority. The excitement of discovery outweighed any concerns about procedural irregularities. As the command center buzzed with renewed activity, Tai returned his attention to the holographic image of Earth. The small blue-green world rotated slowly before him, seemingly ordinary yet profoundly impossible. How had an entire civilization developed without detection? What other surprises might this ghost world hold? "Captain," Ju called from her station, interrupting his thoughts. "I'm detecting unusual activity on the far side of the planet's moon. It appears to be a primitive human outpost." Tay's eyes widened slightly. These beings, humans, as Ju had called them, had already established a presence beyond their homeworld. Perhaps they were further along technologically than initial scans suggested. "Monitor the outpost," he ordered, "but maintain our stealth protocols. No contact until we understand them better." As the crew rushed to follow his commands, Todd couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled upon something that would change galactic understanding forever. A world that had developed in isolation, invisible to the wider galaxy. What other impossibilities might these humans have achieved? For the first time in his long career, Captain Ta felt a sensation he barely recognized: genuine wonder. Researcher Sun's quarters aboard the observation vessel were cluttered with data pads, holographic projections, and half-consumed cups of stimulant beverage. 6 weeks of intensive study had transformed the normally tidy space into a chaotic reflection of her mental state. She stared at the latest analysis results, fighting the urge to hurl her data pad against the wall. "Impossible," she muttered, running the calculations again. The results remained unchanged. Sun had spent her entire career studying emerging civilizations. She had helped develop the Coalition's Universal Development Framework, the model that predicted how intelligent species would evolve socially and technologically. That framework had successfully mapped the development of every known spacefaring species in the galaxy. Until now, the humans of Earth defied every established pattern. Their technological progress occurred in unpredictable bursts rather than the steady, logical progression observed in other species. Their global society was fragmented into hundreds of political entities with different, often contradictory approaches to governance. Most baffling of all, they had somehow achieved space travel despite their chaotic, uncoordinated efforts. Sun gathered her materials and left her quarters, heading for the observation deck, where she knew Chief Anthropologist Juan would be conducting his daily review. She needed to discuss these findings with someone who might understand their implications. Juan barely looked up when Sun entered. His attention remained fixed on the multiple screens displaying various human activities across Earth: construction projects, transportation systems, entertainment venues, educational facilities. The observation team had placed thousands of undetectable monitoring devices around the planet, providing unprecedented access to human behavior patterns. "These humans make no sense," Sun declared, dropping her data pad on the console with a clatter. Their development pattern is completely chaotic. No central authority guiding technological progress, no unified cultural direction. Juan nodded, his eyes still tracking the screens where humans went about their daily lives. That's what makes them so fascinating. They evolved without any precursor species influence. Complete evolutionary anomalies. In most parts of the galaxy, advanced species had guided the development of emerging intelligent life, providing direction and preventing the worst mistakes. Even the Coalition had benefited from the guidance of the now extinct founders in its early days. But humans had somehow developed entirely on their own, with no evidence of outside intervention. And look at this neurological data. Sun continued, pulling up detailed brain scans on the main display. They simultaneously possess extremely strong emotional capacity alongside sophisticated analytical thinking. The Coalition has always maintained that's an impossible combination. According to established xenoneurology, these traits existed at opposite ends of a developmental spectrum. Species either evolved toward emotional intelligence or analytical intelligence, never both in equal measure. The prevailing theory held that the neural architecture required for one precluded the development of the other. Yet here they are. Juan murmured, finally turning his attention to Sun's data. Their creativity and adaptability indexes are off our charts. They solve problems in ways that shouldn't work but somehow do. The screen showed a compilation of human innovation, from primitive tools to complex machines, from simple cave paintings to elaborate virtual reality systems. Each breakthrough seemed to emerge from a combination of logical analysis and emotional intuition that defied Coalition models. Look at this example, Juan said, bringing up footage of a human invention process. This individual failed 73 times before creating a functional prototype. By Coalition standards, the project would have been abandoned after the third failure as demonstrably unviable. But the human persisted based on what appears to be pure emotional conviction, eventually finding a solution our predictive models would never have considered. Sun studied the footage, noting the human's facial expressions cycling through frustration, determination, and eventual triumph. Their emotional investment actually drives their analytical processes rather than hindering them. Precisely, Juan agreed, and that's not the only anomaly. He switched to a different display showing human social interactions. Their social bonds form through incredibly complex emotional exchanges that seem inefficient but create unusually strong group cohesion. They appear capable of maintaining meaningful connections with over 100 individuals, far beyond the number limit established for other intelligent species. Sun set down her pad, the implications of their findings slowly crystallizing in her mind. Do you think the Coalition's assumptions about the correct path of civilization development might be wrong? Juan didn't answer immediately. His silence spoke volumes. After 20 years as chief anthropologist for the Coalition's Contact Division, he had helped establish many of those assumptions himself. I think, he finally said, choosing his words carefully, that we may have confused common with correct. Sun sat down heavily in the adjacent chair. If these humans represent a viable alternative developmental path, the entire theoretical framework of xenosociology would need revision. Indeed, Juan agreed. But there's something even more concerning. He brought up a new set of data, comparative adaptation rates between humans and other Coalition species. Look at how quickly they adjust to new challenges. Their problem-solving methodology isn't just different. It's demonstrably superior in certain contexts. The graph showed human adaptability exceeding established species in scenarios involving limited resources, unexpected threats, and environmental changes, where Coalition species typically required generations to adapt culturally to major shifts. Humans appeared capable of radically changing their approach within a single lifetime. If they ever joined the galactic community, Sun began, they would rapidly outpace established models. Juan finished. The Coalition values stability and predictability above all else. These humans represent the opposite: constant change, emotional decision-making, decentralized progress. Sun stared at the screens showing ordinary humans going about their lives, unaware they were being observed, unaware their very existence challenged fundamental assumptions about intelligent life in the galaxy. Captain Tai needs to see this analysis immediately, she said. He should know what we've discovered before reporting back to Coalition Command. Juan nodded slowly. I agree. But Sun, consider the implications carefully. If we present humans as a viable alternative to Coalition development models, we're challenging centuries of established theory and the authority of institutions built upon those theories. Sun gathered her data, suddenly understanding the weight of their discovery. Sometimes the most important scientific advancement is recognizing when your fundamental assumptions are wrong. As she left to find Captain Tai, Sun glanced once more at the screens showing human activity. A small group of children were building an elaborate structure from simple blocks, demolishing it with laughter, then immediately beginning to build something new and different. The scene perfectly encapsulated what made humans so impossible and so fascinating. They created simply to create again. They embraced failure as a step toward success. They combined emotion and logic in ways that defied explanation. And somehow, against all Coalition understanding, it worked. The emergency briefing room aboard the Horizon Asterisk was filled to capacity. Captain Ta had summoned all senior staff after receiving an urgent message from scientist Kim, who had been working around the clock to solve the mystery of Earth's long-term invisibility to Coalition detection systems. Kim stood at the front of the room, dark circles under his eyes betraying his lack of sleep. Behind him, complex data visualizations floated in the air, showing brain-wave patterns and quantum energy signatures that meant little to anyone but the most specialized scientists on the team. I figured it out, Kim announced without preamble. Humanity's invisibility isn't technological, it's biological. A murmur ran through the assembled crew. Captain Tay, seated at the head of the table, leaned forward with interest and gestured for Kim to continue. Kim touched a control panel, and a holographic display zoomed in on what appeared to be a detailed scan of a human brain. For the past 3 weeks, I've been analyzing tissue samples collected from human waste disposal sites. He paused as several crew members grimaced. Not the most pleasant research, I admit, but it yielded remarkable results. The display shifted to show a pulsing pattern overlaid on the brain scan. Human brains emit a specific quantum resonance that naturally disrupts long-range detection technology. It's not something they built. It's part of what they are. Captain Tai studied the display carefully. Are you certain? This would be unprecedented in galactic biology. I verified it through multiple test methods. Kim confirmed. The effect strengthens when humans gather in groups, which explains why their large population centers created the strongest masking effect. A single human might be detectable, but a city of millions generates a quantum interference field that renders conventional scanners useless unless you're practically in orbit. Officer Dai whistled softly from her seat near the captain. A natural stealth ability. That explains how they developed without interference from potentially hostile powers. Throughout the galaxy, emerging civilizations were often exploited, colonized, or even exterminated by more advanced species, at least until the Coalition established protections for developing worlds. Earth's unusual invisibility had inadvertently shielded humanity during its vulnerable developmental stages. Exactly, Kim agreed, calling up a new series of images showing ancient human artifacts. Stone carvings of disc-shaped objects, primitive paintings of humanoid figures descending from the sky. Our historical analysis suggests Earth may have been visited throughout their history, but visitors' technology was disrupted, creating what humans call mythology rather than colonization events. Medical Officer Han raised her hand. Could this neural signature be artificially induced, perhaps by an unknown species that wanted to protect humans? Kim shook his head. It's genetically encoded in their DNA. Whatever causes this effect, humans evolved with it naturally over thousands of generations. It's as much a part of them as their bipedal locomotion or their unusual emotional capacity. Captain Tai turned to his stenobiologist. Bah, what are the implications here? Could this ability be related to their other unusual traits? Xenobiologist Bah stood up, excitement evident in his voice. Captain, I believe they're all connected. The human brain has evolved in ways fundamentally different from every other intelligent species we've encountered. Their neural architecture shouldn't work according to our established models. Their emotional centers are too closely integrated with their analytical processes, their memory storage is wildly inefficient, and now we discover they generate quantum fields that should be impossible for organic matter. He walked to the display and brought up comparative brain scans. In coalition species, we see clear separation between emotional and rational processing centers. In humans, these regions overlap extensively, creating what should be chaotic neural activity, but somehow results in enhanced problem-solving capabilities. And the quantum effect, pressed Captain Ta. Possibly a side effect of their unique neural structure, Ba suggested. The random firing patterns in human brains create quantum fluctuations that amplify when millions of humans are in proximity. Security Chief 1, who had been silently listening until now, spoke up. The question becomes, do we classify humans as a potential threat or a valuable anomaly to be protected? The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Coalition protocols categorized undiscovered species based on their potential threat level and scientific value. These classifications determined everything from contact protocols to resource allocation. A natural stealth ability could be viewed as an evolved weapon. One continued, voicing the concern that hung in the air. Some on the Coalition Security Council might argue that any species that evolved to hide itself did so for predatory reasons. That's ridiculous, protested researcher Sun. Our observations clearly show humans aren't inherently aggressive, no more than any other intelligent species. They've just developed along different paths. But they are remarkably adaptable, countered one. And their technology, while primitive by our standards, is advancing at an exponential rate. Their history shows clearly that they direct significant resources toward military applications. Captain Tai raised his hand for silence before the discussion could devolve into argument. Before we continue, I want to hear Kim's assessment. Is this biological stealth ability something humans can control or weaponize? Kim shook his head confidently. No, Captain. They aren't even aware it exists. The quantum effect is entirely passive, a fortunate evolutionary trait that protected them from detection, but not something they can amplify or direct. And if they became aware of it? Pressed 1. They lack the technology to detect or manipulate quantum fields at this level, Kim replied. Even if they knew about the ability, they couldn't weaponize it with their current scientific understanding. Captain Ta nodded, considering all he had heard. So we have a species that evolved natural stealth capabilities, unique neural architecture that combines emotional and analytical processing in unprecedented ways, and adaptation rates that exceed coalition norms, all of which has allowed them to develop in isolation, without external influence. Precisely, confirmed Kim. The coalition will want a comprehensive threat assessment, one reminded everyone. And they deserve an accurate one, countered Sun. These humans aren't a threat, they're a scientific marvel. Ta looked around the room at his team, seeing the division forming along predictable lines. The security-minded saw potential dangers in any anomaly, while the scientists saw opportunities for discovery. The decision may be beyond our pay grade, he finally said, but our recommendation will shape coalition policy. Consider carefully. He stood up and walked to the holographic display, studying the image of Earth rotating slowly among its data overlays. We need a complete report within 48 hours. I want input from every department: security, science, medical, anthropology, everything. Be thorough and be honest in your assessments. As the meeting dispersed, Captain Tai remained, looking at the planet that had hidden itself from the galaxy for so long. A world of beings who had evolved in ways that defied established understanding, who combined traits thought to be mutually exclusive, who might represent an entirely new paradigm for intelligent life. Whatever the coalition ultimately decided, Ta knew one thing with certainty: the discovery of Earth would change galactic science forever. The question was whether the coalition would embrace that change or fear it. The coalition monitoring station orbiting Proxima Centauri had been established centuries ago as a minor trading outpost. Despite its proximity to Earth, no one had ever expected humans to reach it. The system was supposed to be beyond their technological capabilities for at least another century, according to all projections. Yet there it was on the scanners, an unmistakably human vessel approaching the station with a steady, deliberate course. Station Director No stared at the readout in disbelief. "Confirm that signature," he ordered the sensor operator. "Already triple confirmed, Director," the operator replied. "It's definitely from Earth. Their propulsion system matches what we observed during our surveillance, though it appears they've made significant improvements." "Impossible," No muttered. Just 6 months had passed since Captain Ta's discovery of Earth, and the coalition was still debating how to approach the anomalous civilization. No contact protocols had been approved. No official acknowledgement had been authorized. The humans weren't supposed to even know about the wider galactic community, let alone be traveling through it. "They're hailing us," reported Communications Officer Kang with evident surprise. "Standard radio frequencies, though they're using a modulation pattern I've never seen before." No hesitated. The station's protocols for unauthorized contact were clear: maintain invisibility and report to Central Command. But coalition cloaking technology relied on the predictable scanning patterns of known species. If humans were as uniquely perceptive as Captain Ta's report suggested, they might already have detected the station regardless of its stealth systems. "Put them on screen," No decided, "and alert Coalition Command immediately." The view screen flickered to life, revealing the interior of the human vessel. 5 humans in matching blue uniforms looked back at them. The one in the center, apparently the commander, showed no surprise at seeing non-human faces. "Greetings," the human said in clear, measured tones. "I am Commander Lee of the Earth exploration vessel Pathfinder *. We come in peace and seek permission to approach your station." No struggled to maintain his composure. "This is Director No of Coalition Outpost P-17. Your presence in this system is unexpected. How did you locate our station?" Commander Lee smiled. "We detected your quantum communication signals during our approach to the Proxima system. Your technology has a distinctive signature that doesn't match anything natural." The casual way she mentioned detecting quantum communications, technology that should have been centuries beyond human capabilities, sent a wave of murmurs through the station's command center. "Please stand by," No said, signaling to cut the transmission. He turned to his senior staff. "Options. Coalition protocol requires us to deny approach and maintain minimal contact until headquarters provides instructions," his security chief stated. "But they've already found us," countered Science Officer Park. "And they've somehow developed interstellar travel far ahead of projected timelines. Refusing contact won't make them go away." No made his decision. "Grant them approach clearance, but restrict them to Docking Bay 3. It can be isolated if necessary. Prepare a welcome team, security personnel, science staff, and xenolinguists. Full biohazard protocols." Within hours, the human vessel had docked with the station. Director No watched from the observation room as the humans were escorted to a specially prepared meeting area. Despite the strange environment, they showed remarkable composure, examining alien technology with curiosity rather than fear. Coalition scientist Park joined him at the window. "How are they adapting to our interfaces so quickly?" she asked, watching the video feed of the human crew working with the station's computer terminals. The humans had been given restricted access to non-sensitive systems, yet they were navigating the alien interfaces with surprising ease. Their neural structure allows them to intuitively understand concepts that would baffle most other newly discovered species, explained xenobiologist Gill, who had joined them with his analysis pad. "Look at that one. Commander Lee, I believe. She's already figured out our navigation systems." No frowned. Is that a security concern? Not immediately, Jill replied. They're still restricted to basic information, but their learning curve is exponentially steeper than our models predicted. At this rate, they'll understand our core technologies within days rather than the expected months or years. The situation quickly escalated beyond the authority of a mere outpost director. Within 12 hours of the humans' arrival, the Coalition High Council had convened an emergency session on the Central World to address the unexpected contact. In the Grand Council chamber, representatives from the 87 member species gathered in rising tiers of seats, their diverse physiologies accommodated by specialized environmental fields. The debate had been raging for hours. We should maintain the Ghost World classification, argued Councillor Bake, the elderly representative from one of the Coalition's founding species. These humans are unpredictable. Look how quickly they've advanced, developing interstellar travel centuries ahead of our projections. Who knows what other capabilities they're hiding? Precisely why we should engage with them directly, countered Councillor Yoon, representing a younger species that had joined the Coalition more recently. Their problem-solving approaches are unlike anything we've seen. The potential benefits of cooperation far outweigh the risks of continued isolation. Grand Councillor Munn, the Coalition's highest authority, raised a hand for silence. We have studied Captain Taz's reports extensively. These humans do present unusual traits, but nothing in their history suggests inherent hostility toward other intelligent life. Their rapid advancement is concerning, yes, but also potentially valuable. They've already found us, added Councillor Yoon. Attempting to hide the Coalition's existence now would only foster distrust. The Council's deliberations were interrupted by an aide who whispered urgently to Grand Councillor Munn. The ancient leader's expression shifted to one of surprise. It seems, Munn announced to the assembly, that the humans have taken matters into their own hands. They've dispatched a diplomatic vessel directly to our Central World. It will arrive within the hour. The chamber erupted in shocked exclamations. How had humans discovered the location of the Coalition capital? How had they reached it so quickly? I move that we receive their representatives formally, proposed Councillor Yoon. Since they've come this far, we should at least hear what they have to say. After a brief but intense debate, the motion carried by a narrow margin. The council chamber was hastily rearranged to accommodate the historic first meeting with humanity's representatives. When the human diplomatic team entered, led by a tall figure in formal attire, the chamber fell silent. Ambassador Jin moved with confident grace, showing no sign of intimidation despite being surrounded by dozens of alien species. The human smiled, somehow conveying both confidence and humility in a single expression. We come seeking friendship and knowledge, Jin began, addressing the assembly in perfect coalition standard, a language the humans couldn't possibly have learned yet. Though we understand your caution, we're eager to learn how we might fit into this galactic community. The council members exchanged glances of astonishment. These humans were more adaptable than anyone had anticipated. Whatever decision the coalition made about Earth's status, it was clear that humanity had already taken its first steps beyond its isolated world, and nothing would ever be the same again. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Coalition gleamed under the light of 3 artificial suns. Thousands of representatives from across the galaxy filled the tiered seating, their diverse forms creating a living tapestry of galactic life. Some floated in gravity-nullifying fields, others sat in specialized environmental chambers, and many simply occupy the standard seats designed to accommodate a wide range of body types. 5 years had passed since the small human vessel Pathfinder had accidentally encountered the Coalition outpost. 5 years of rapid cultural exchange, technological sharing, and profound paradigm shifts on both sides. Now, the day had come for Earth to receive formal recognition, not merely as another member species, but as something unprecedented in Coalition history. Ambassador Jin stood on the central platform, calm despite the billions watching across thousands of worlds. Behind her stood the human delegation, a carefully selected group representing Earth's diverse regions and cultures. Captain Min, whose deep space mission had first encountered the Coalition, stood proudly in her dress uniform, the scars on her face a reminder of the dangers she had faced pioneering humanity's first interstellar journey. Grand Counselor Han, who had succeeded Mun 3 years earlier, approached the ceremonial days. The ancient alien moved with deliberate grace, carrying the recognition orb, a sphere of living crystal that had symbolized formal acceptance into the Coalition for over 2,000 years. Today marks not merely the addition of another species to our community. Han's voice resonated through the hall, translated simultaneously into thousands of languages. Today we acknowledge a fundamental shift in our understanding of galactic civilization. The assembly fell silent, even the normally chattering Vrex species growing still. When Earth was first discovered, it defied all our established models, a planet that had somehow remained undetected despite our extensive surveys. A species that had evolved without guidance, developing both emotional intelligence and logical reasoning in equal measure, a combination our scientists had deemed impossible. Han gestured toward the human delegation. Initially, we classified Earth as an anomaly, a curious exception to established rules. We expected humans would gradually conform to Coalition standards as they integrated into galactic society. Ambassador Jin remembered those early days, the subtle pressures to adapt human governance, education, and social structures to match Coalition norms. The polite but persistent suggestions that humanity's chaotic approach to innovation was inefficient and would naturally evolve toward more mature models. Instead, Han continued, humanity has demonstrated that their unique evolutionary path represents not a deviation from the correct course, but an entirely viable alternative, one with remarkable advantages in certain contexts. The enormous display behind Han showed images of human achievements during their short time in the Coalition. The diplomatic team that had resolved the centuries-old conflict between the Euro and Talax systems by proposing the solution neither species had considered. The human scientists who had revolutionized quantum communications by approaching the problem through intuitive leaps rather than incremental improvements. The cultural exchange programs that had breathed new life into stagnant artistic traditions across dozens of worlds. In recognition of humanity's unique contributions, announced Han, raising the orb high so it caught the light from all 3 artificial suns, we hereby reclassify Earth from anomaly to essential variable in the galactic equation. The orb began to glow from within as Han presented it to Jin. She accepted it with steady hands, feeling its surprising warmth and subtle vibration, almost as if it were alive. On behalf of Earth and all humans, Jin said, her voice carrying the weight of this historic moment, we accept this recognition and the responsibilities it entails. We pledge to continue contributing our unique perspective to the greater good of all sentient life. The assembly erupted in the diverse sounds of approval from dozens of species, musical trills, rhythmic stomping, luminous displays, and traditional applause blending into a symphony of acceptance. As the formal ceremony transitioned to the celebration phase, scientist Choi found herself surrounded by eager dignitaries from across the Coalition. The xenosociologist had become something of a celebrity since publishing her groundbreaking work on human developmental patterns. The chaotic evolution model that produced humanity is now being studied across the Coalition, she explained to the gathered officials. We've had to restructure our understanding of civilization development entirely. A Vrex representative tilted its eye stalks curiously. But surely the Coalition model remains superior for most species. Humans are merely an interesting exception. Choi smiled diplomatically. That was our initial assumption, but our research now suggests that the Coalition model, what we call guided linear progression, may actually limit certain kinds of innovation. The human approach of parallel, sometimes contradictory development paths creates inefficiencies, yes, but also generates unprecedented breakthroughs. Is that why human art has become so popular? Asked a representative from the Modin Collective, their crystalline body reflecting rainbow patterns. We find it strangely moving despite its technical imperfections. Precisely, Choi confirmed. Human art emerges from the tension between their emotional and analytical capacities. Where coalition species typically separate these functions, humans integrate them, creating work that resonates on multiple levels simultaneously. Across the hall, Captain Min was sharing her experiences with a group of coalition military officers. Your unified command structure has clear advantages, she acknowledged. But our model of distributed leadership allows for adaptation when communications fail. Each unit can act independently toward the greater objective. The officers exchanged glances, clearly intrigued despite their initial skepticism. Min had earned their respect through actions rather than arguments. Her rescue mission to the Talax mining colony had demonstrated human resourcefulness under pressure in ways that theoretical discussions never could. As the celebration continued, Ambassador Jin found herself standing next to Counselor Yoon, who had been humanity's earliest advocate on the council. "You know," Yoon said quietly, "when we first detected your world, we called it a ghost world. Invisible, unpredictable, potentially dangerous." Jin smiled, remembering the early reports she had read about coalition observations of Earth. "And now we understand that the galaxy needs its variables," Yoon replied, watching the diverse gathering with evident satisfaction. "Predictability leads to stagnation. Your species evolved outside all expected parameters, and that might be exactly what saves us all in the end." Jin raised an eyebrow. "Saves you? From what?" Yoon's expression grew more serious. "The coalition has existed for 12,000 years. In that time, we've grown, expanded, and perfected our systems. But recent centuries have shown troubling signs: decreased innovation, cultural calcification, slower responses to emerging threats." Jin nodded slowly. The human delegation had noticed these patterns, but had been diplomatic enough not to mention them directly. "Your arrival was perfectly timed," Yoon continued. "Humanity has already introduced more significant innovations in 5 years than the coalition produced in the previous century. Your neural architecture, your problem-solving methodologies, your ability to thrive on change rather than merely tolerate it. These are the qualities the galaxy needs as we face unknown challenges ahead." As the celebration continued around them, Jin gazed out at the vast assembly hall where thousands of different species had gathered in peaceful cooperation. Humanity had come so far in such a short time, from an isolated world unaware of galactic civilization to an essential variable in cosmic calculations. Perhaps, she thought, this was the true meaning of humanity's unusual evolution. Not merely to develop in isolation, but to bring fresh perspective to a galaxy that had forgotten how to see with new eyes.